Welcome to Obsidian. Let's make buttons and trigger templates. Alright, g'day guys, and welcome back tonight to another Obsidian.md TTRPG tutorial. Tonight we're going to be looking at buttons, because obviously buttons are cool. You can click them, and when you click them things happen, and you know, I want that in my vault. Specifically what I'd like is a button that I can press that creates a new NPC, or a button I can press that can create a new location, or pretty much a button I can press that can create anything that I need really quickly. Now, usually when I want to create something quickly, I'm playing a game, and NPCs are the perfect example here, right? Like I'm usually like, oh, boom, you meet this guy, I need to create a note, and I want to create it on the fly, and I want that note to have the right name, I want it to be put in the right folder, I want it to have a template so it's ready for me to sort of fluff out and populate without having to think about the layout of my data, and I want to then be able to get back on with my game very quickly. And the good news is that with Obsidian.md there is absolutely a way. So tonight we're going to need a couple of plugins. One of those is Buttons, and one of those is Templater. A large number of you are probably already using Templater, but Buttons can be used in collaboration with it, and it's certainly going to allow us to do a lot more. So let's jump in and let's have a look. Now you can see here on my landing page, we went through this in the last video, I now have some buttons. And just to show you an example of what I'm talking about, this is the functionality that you can get from this. So I'm playing my game, alright, I might not even have this open. The player's like, oh, I need you to introduce me to the blacksmith. I press new tab, I now have my landing screen, which I love, and I've got my buttons. So I go, alright, new NPC. I run that, it prompts me, what's the NPC's name? Well, his name is Barry. Press enter, alright, the note is now called Barry, alright, it's applied my template, which has a lot going on. Yes, this is the one I personally like to use. And just to speak to what's in my template, you know, like I've got some information about it. I can have a description of him if I like. I've got my stat block over here, or my wiki style thing over here, and I've got an encounter block. And that's generally all I need to run an NPC. Just a few prompts and enough to add him to combat if I need to, and some pictures I can share with my players, and some information to know who it is. That's the way I like it. So ignore all this though, because a lot of that doesn't really matter. Alright, that's just the outcome of it. Now let's go through and have a look. So we've created Barry, but where did he create? Now I've decided to start storing my NPCs in my mechanics and my non-player characters, and I think we've had a number of conversations over the years in the socials on where is the perfect place to store your NPCs. It's a weird question, because they're not mechanics, right? They're not in the bestiary. They don't get reused over and over again. So do they go in the world vault, or the world section, or the world almanac for those people who are playing from Realmworks side? Do they belong with the content? Should they go in the location where they exist in your world? It's really up to you. I've decided to have a singular folder where they all go, and the workflow for the button supports that. All right, so the button workflow wouldn't like me to put my NPC wherever, but you could certainly have a drop folder, for example, where your NPCs get created, and then you drag them off to wherever it is that you want them to go. But for my workflow tonight, I've decided they're going to go in my vault, in the mechanics folder, under non-player characters, and you can see here that Barry has been created. The note is called Barry, alright, so the naming has worked. You can see that my template has been applied, and it's ready to rock and roll. So that works really well. There was one button. If I want to create a new NPC, I just come up here and I just go, alright, new NPC, and what are we going to do? We'll wait for this, so we'll go, alright, his name is Gary. So we have Barry and Gary, and off they go. Now, just to call out here, it's not going to allow you to create two NPCs with the same name. Alright, that's just that will cause an error. Alright, so how did we do this? Alright, first things first, let's install the plugins. So we'll go down here to settings, we'll go down to community plugins. I'm sure you guys know how to do this by now. Browse, and we're coming here, we're going to type button, alright, and buttons. So buttons is a plugin by Sam Morrison. You can see it has been downloaded 61,000 times, so this is a very popular plugin. Go ahead, press the install button. Once it's done the install, press the enable button. While you're doing that, go through and have a read of the README. This is quite a in-depth plugin. There's a lot that it can do. There's a lot of really good examples here. It's going to do a lot more than what I'm going to teach you tonight. I'm going to be very focused solely on how to create a new note with Templater. But just know you can do other things. You can trigger buttons from commands, you can trigger links, you can append data, prepend data, add templates, create notes, calculate stuff, swap buttons. Like, there's a few things you can do. So jump in here, have a read of the README if you want to learn how far this can go. Now, we're also going to need Templater. Now, Templater is not the out-of-box template plugin. All right, so just to show you what I'm talking about there, under Core Plugins, there is a plugin called Templates, okay, and you can enable that. Templater is used by a large number of the community, and it's basically similar functionality, but a lot more advanced. All right, so if we can come in here, we can see this one's by Silent Void. Thank you, Silent Void. Lovely, lovely plugin, by the way. And we can see here that this one has been downloaded a whopping 345,000 times. Like, this thing is popular. And what is the benefit of Templater over the standard one? It's this sort of syntax here, right? It's when you create your templates, you can automate information into them. You can move it to the right folder. There's a whole coding language that you can use to manipulate your notes as they get created. So go ahead, do the install, do the enable. You will need to go into options for this one, and you will need to set your template folder location. So you can see here that I store all my templates in the Z_templates folder. Create your own folder, set it up, but you do need to do that here. Now, I do recommend you enable the automatic jump to cursor, all right, so you can turn that on. Trigger template on file new creation, I've got that turned on. There's an option here to show the icon on the sidebar if you so desire. And then down here, this is kind of important. We have like folder templates that are created when a note is created in a folder specifically. There's startup templates, there's script templates. It can get quite advanced, but that's all we need for now. Go ahead, do the install, and let's have a look at that. All right, so first things first, we need to create a template because the button is going to create a new note with the template. So the template is a necessary part of the workflow. So what do? We go down to our templates folder. You can right click, create a new note, and start writing your template. But here is one I've prepared earlier. So this is my template. Keeping in mind a large chunk of this is not necessary. All right, keep watching for this video because I'm going to walk you through the parts that are actually applicable to making this work. But just note that the information that goes into your template is completely up to you. All right, so I've created two here tonight. I've got one for settlement and I've got one for NPC. Let's go through and have a look. So we'll go into edit mode and we can see here, right? So it's called template NPC. I've got some metadata. Again, that does not matter, but this code here does. So everything between these blue sort of symbols here, all right, this is template syntax. Now this one here is setting the title. This one here is basically asking the application to wait while we move the file. All right, so that's what's going on here. This section here, this is basically when a note gets created, it checks to see what the name is, and if the name matches that, then it's going to actually rename that file. So we're moving it, we're renaming it, and that's really cool because what we're going to do when we press the button is we're going to trigger the creation of a note. It's going to get moved straight into the folder and it's going to get renamed per the prompt that we prop up. So, all right, if we do this, I think I can probably do that actually, which will trigger the name. All right, so that is actually the text that matters. Okay, and there will be links to this from my Patreon. All right, so if you go along to my Patreon, you will find that I'll have links to all of these files from there. The link to the Patreon will be in the description below. But yeah, the rest of this, while it's probably interesting to you, is not necessary. All right, so all this is just an info box on the right. It creates this wiki style template over here. I have another video on that if you'd like to see that. It's to do with the ITS theme. That's what creates that functionality. You've got some stuff down here from data view. There's one more line from templater here, which is the tp.file.cursor. All that does is when the templater gets created and triggered, it moves your mouse to that cursor. And if you remember rightfully, we enabled that setting in the configuration for templater. So that's where that's coming from. I've got a stat block here, which is obviously coming from the stat block plugin, and then I've got an encounter which is coming from the initiative tracker plugin. I've also got a prompt for myself to use the AI text generator to describe this guy, all right, to save me having to do it myself. So that's what's going into my template tonight, guys. But ultimately, this bit here is the bit that matters. And this is what I'll have a copy of this in the Patreon, so you can just copy the text into yours, but you need to have an understanding of how it's going. Now, while we're here, there's a few things we want to call out. So these are the bits that you would need to modify to match your vault. So this section here is where you want to save the file. So in my case here, I'm going to .mechanics, that's my parent folder. Note that I've got a slash at the start of that. All right, then I do a slash, I've got non-player characters, which is my subfolder, and then I want my files to be put in there. So you could just need to go through and update that to obviously match what you've got. This little plus here is to handle the file name, all right, so that you won't need to change that, just leave that the way it is. So update that. Then down here, new NPC. Now to know what you want to put in here, you need to first create your button. All right, now is a good opportunity for us to go over and have a look at the code for a button. If I go into edit, this is the code for a button. Now I just want to call out here, see this bit here, new NPC. What we're doing is we're type note, all right, so we're creating a new note called new NPC, all right, that's what we're putting into here. We are putting that new NPC there to match the name of my button that's created here. And actually what I'm going to do is I'll put this over here so you guys can see both of these next to each other as we go. Alright, so how did I create the button code? Obviously, I've installed the button plugin. Alright, that's simple. But then what we can actually do is go down to the command palette. In the command palette we can type button, and oh my god, there's a button maker. Alright, there's a wizard, guys. How much easier can it get? So here's the wizard. What would my button be called? Alright, what do we need? New magic item. Select a button type. Alright, so these are the different type of buttons you can have. Obviously they do different things. Now you can run a command, you can open a link, you can open a template, you can write some text, you can calculate. Alright, we're going to go template, which means we're going to run a template. Now do this. What are we going to do? I'm going to create a new note. Alright, but there's all sorts of stuff you can do. My template, do I have a magic? Template magic item. There we go, template magic item. I'll run that. Note name, new magic item. Now, this is what I was talking about before. Like you can just see it in the back here, this new NPC. You obviously keep track of that number. I'd recommend you copy that at this point, all right, because you might need it again. Do I want to split this? So when the template opens, do I want it to go into a new pane, or do I want it to open the existing? I want to split it out. Now my button block ID, this is a name. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call it new magic item ID. All right, that's just my naming convention that I'm using. Would I like to remove the button? No, I want the button to stay. Would you like to replace lines in this node after clicking? No, I want it to stay. As you can see, it can get quite advanced. Would you like to inherit? No. Is this a template trigger? Yes. Okay. Do I have any custom CSS for this? No, I don't, but that interests me. And would I like to set a color? You know what? I'm actually going to set it to purple because it's a magic item, and why not? Now we can press that button or we can insert that button. I'm just going to go insert. Alright, that's created this line of text here. And as you can see what it's doing. So, alright, it's a button. The name is called the new magic item button. It's a type of note, so it's going to create a new note. It's going to create a new note called the new magic item. And when it creates that note, it's going to split it out into a separate plane. It's a template note, so it's going to open up a template, which means the action is to open template-magic item. Now, this here I found will not work, okay? And what I did find through my testing is that I had all of these, hang on, where did I put it? Template magic item. Alright, so I've got these ones in here. It will not work in the subfolder is what I found. I had to put it into my parent template folder. So I'm going to put that back there. And what I'm also going to do is I'm going to remove any special characters or spaces from my name. So I'll take the dash out and I'm just going to call it template magic item. Now, I don't know if I need to do that. I haven't played enough with this to say that there's no way around this. I couldn't find a way around it, but I'm sure someone out there will come along and go, yeah, you just do this and it works. So I'm just going to change the name of this to match the name of the file. All right, so action template magic item. What it's saying is run this template from within my templates folder. But to stress the point, it must be in the templates parent folder. It can't be in a subfolder. If you know the answer to this, please reach out and let me know. I would love to. All right, it's a templater. It's true. Remember, we ticked that, so it's letting it know that it's going to run templater, and it's the color purple. And here's the ID. Now, the ID is cool, just so that you're aware of what the ID can do. We'll go back into here. The ID allows us to use the button elsewhere. So while we've created this button in this file over here, if we actually go to command prompt, type button, all right, we can actually insert an inline button, all right, and see how it gives me a list of them. So my new magic ID is already there. I can press enter, all right, and now I have my new magic item in this note, even though it's written in that note. So just a heads up that that is possible as well. You can see the syntax here is pretty easy to understand. Just one of these little dot thingies, button dash name. All right, and then closing one. And that will just create a button somewhere in your note. Obviously, that could be quite handy to replicate that in other places. Now, I don't need that one currently, but everything is there. All right, so we now have a new magic item, new NPC, new location. Interestingly enough, my button didn't turn purple. And that could be the theme that I'm using has overridden this, maybe. Certainly a possibility. So, not that it matters to me, I kind of like the color effect that we have going on here. So I'll get rid of color purple, it's obviously not working for me. And we'll just leave it to there. Alright, so new magic item. So what happens when we trigger that? Alright, that creates a new magic item and it creates it down here. Now where did that create it? It created that in just like sort of my default vault, right? So it didn't create it in any folders whatsoever. Alright, you can see it's not in a folder, it's just here. Alright, now it's created it using the template that I've used previously. This is an old template. I haven't actually updated this to be the new one that I would like to use. I'm much bigger on all sorts of stuff these days. Like I don't use any of this. I'm not going to use any of this. Alright, I now have a type. That's fine. Tags, group, rarity. That actually sounds alright. Alright, so that's going to be my front matter in this, but what I need to do is largely copy over this information. I have noticed there's an issue with multiple paned windows going out of read mode, and it's getting rather annoying. I reckon it's a plugin. I almost guarantee you it's a plugin. Alright, so I'm going to copy this text over. Now, I need to pick where this is going to go. Alright, so this is the bit here that we need to update. So I want my magic item to go into mechanics. It's going to go into items. Do I have a homebrew? Probably not. So I'm going to go homebrew magic items. Alright, I want it in there. So what do? We want it in two mechanics. So slash 2 mechanics is going to be the first folder. It's really annoying when it keeps jumping out here. Then I want it in items. Alright, and then I want it in homebrew magic items. Sorting my items folder is high on my to-do list, by the way. There is way too much stuff in there. Alright, so mechanics, items, homebrew magic items, that bit is now done. Alright, all I need to do is tell it where I've done it. I'll just do a double check, make sure the spelling is right. I banged my head against the wall last night for like an hour trying to get this thing to work. Turned out I had like a spelling error. It was a space, that was it. Alright, so we got two dot space mechanics slash items, yep, and then homebrew magic items, homebrew magic items. Alright, so that works. Now down here, obviously this is where we have the other code that I've got. So I've created a button. Alright, I call my new item new magic item, so I need to in here tell it, oh this gets really annoying, new magic item. Okay, so that's it. That is now effectively done. You know, it's up to me what I put in the rest of this template. I could certainly use something. I can use this here, which is the trigger in template to put my cursor somewhere. So where would we like it to go? Probably just there maybe. Alright, so when I start with that note, my cursor should start there. Alright, and now we're there. Now, I will say this, just so you guys are aware. When I triggered that button before, alright, and actually I'll show you this, I'll show you that it doesn't work. There was an error. Maybe the file exists already. Alright, this is true because it's trying to create an item called new magic item, but we've already got one down here because we've already pressed the button once. We didn't rename that file and we didn't move that to another folder, so now it can't create a file in the same place with the same name. So what I'm going to do, I'm in testing mode, I'm going to delete it. Alright, that just scared me because I thought I deleted the wrong file. Alright, so we'll close out this. Alright, now we've got the new magic item. Now, keeping in mind that we've now set it up so that it will trigger the template will try and move the item and it will ask us to rename it. So now when we press it, what happens? New magic item. Alright, something didn't work. Let's have a look. We've got new magic item. Ah, I know what it is. This one caught me out last night as well. We need to go into template as configuration, so down here to settings. Alright, we need to come into templater, down here, and come into the templater settings, and we're going to add a new folder template. So in here, we're going to do 2 space mechanics, we're going to go items, we're going to then do a slash and go homebrew magic items. Alright, and when we're in the homebrew magic items, what do we want to do? Well, we want to run z templates, and we want to use, what's it called? Can I see it? It's in my templates, isn't it? Template magic-item.md. Alright, there we go. So I set it up, and as you can see, I've got these set up for a number of other things as well. What this basically means is that when you create a new folder, a new note, sorry, in one of these folders, it will automatically apply this template. And I think I've made a video on that early in the piece. So, you know, that's quite handy that you can just right click on a folder, go new item, new note, and it will actually trigger that template. But it's actually also useful for this specific functionality. So if we come down here, we're going to delete the new magic item now because we don't need that one. Alright, so let's do another test. New magic item creates the new magic item. Did it trigger? No, it didn't. Alright, so we're still having an issue here. Let's go ahead. Alright, this just told me something. I don't know if you guys picked up on that, but notice that the template is different from the one that I modified before. So let's just go through and have a quick look. Obviously we've got magic item. I've modified the wrong template, I reckon. So if I come in here to mechanics, equipment, yeah, I've modified the wrong one. Alright, so let me just quickly do that again. That's an easy fix. It's an annoying one, but it's easy to fix, and it's probably good for you guys. So somehow I updated the wrong template. I don't know how I did that. I'll have to watch my video and go back and figure out where I went wrong. But let's just do quickly update that, copy this text in. Oh, please stop doing that. Alright, we'll stick that in here. Oh my god, it's annoying. Put my template cursor in. I'm going to figure out, I'm going to do a massive isolation test to figure out what the hell is changing my notes back. Alright, so now we've got it. We'll just quickly update this so it's in items. what was it? Homebrew magic items, and we were looking for new magic item. Alright, so it's probably always good for you guys to see some troubleshooting, because I get a lot of questions like, it didn't work, what do I do? Like, you just step back through, guys. Step back through and have a look and see where it went wrong. Alright, so there we go, we've got that in there now, we've got our template, we can close that down. We need to delete this again, because again, the button will not work if it's already there. Let's do another test, new magic item. Now we've triggered for a name, so things are working a lot better. This is going to be my wand of kangaroos. I don't know why anyone would want one of those, but I'm sure it could come maybe useful. Alright, there we go. So wand of kangaroos, that's now created. Now have a look down here. Notice that the file is not in the original location that it's been getting created by the button. So if we now go and we expand out mechanics, we expand out items, and we expand out homebrew magic items, what do we find? Nothing. Now I reckon here we have a note. It's come into, where is it? It's come into items, but it hasn't come into the actual folder where I want it. So I must have an issue there. Alright, so I'm going to have a quick look at my template again. Template magic item. Did I get... Oh, I didn't put the slash at the end. Alright, so that slash at the end. Alright, so this is troubleshooting, guys. Like, it doesn't always go perfect. And you know, just like you guys, we make mistakes, right? It's important to understand that you just need to go back and step through things to find out where it's gone wrong, so you can obviously make that improvement. Now, what am I going to do here? I could move this item manually, but I still want to test it to see if it's working. So I'm going to delete this. Alright, I'm going to close my template, and I'm going to trigger it again. New magic item. Here's the name, wand of kangaroos, enter. Alright, let's have a look. It didn't create it here. Let's have a look in our homebrew magic items. Alright, wand of kangaroos, fantastic. We now have that coming through. So, brilliant. So, button now triggers me to obviously rename it. It then creates the note in the folder that I want it, and it applies the template that I want. And if we have a look here, new NPC, yep, where's my name? Kangajoe. Alright, he's now got his own note. Alright, so there you go. It's working from start to finish. Now, as you can see, this is starting to get a little bit complex. There's a lot of things going on here, but ultimately, it's not super complex. Now, we did find a limitation with this plugin. So obviously anyone who's looking at this with OCD is probably screaming at their screen right now saying like, why are these buttons in a vertical order? Make them horizontal. I will let you know that we tried and we failed. There is a way to make them in line, and I want to show you that because it is super cool. Alright, so down here on a new line, we can go open command palette. We can come up here, type in button, and insert inline buttons. Now the cool thing about this is we can go new NPC ID, new location, new magic item, and then we can press enter, and it's put them all down here on the same line. Now that one there hasn't exactly worked, and what I found is that you need to have the buttons start with button. So button dash and button dash. Noticing that up here, all I'm doing is I'm replicating these names. Alright, so that's how this is working. But this concept of being able to have them in an inline field is, I think, where it's meant to go. Now, interestingly enough, that didn't work. I did get these working last night. No. Button new ID. You know when you like want to make a video and you're like, this is going to go right, I've tested it. Doesn't always work, guys. I wonder if it's because I need to actually put more of these in. Did the wrong ones. Catches me out every single time. Alright, there we go. So we have them in a nice horizontal line. This is how I would like them. Alright, I don't want them here, I want them along. And I think that would be fantastic. But what happens, templated args don't work with inline buttons yet. So unfortunately this functionality doesn't exist yet. So to the developer of buttons, please get this functionality working. Like, please. Because I really want the buttons to go that way, not this way. Now, what's a way around this? So just a heads up, like we were thinking like, we really want them across here. Like I tried to put them into a table, that didn't work. I tried to use them, the multi-column markdown plugin, that didn't work. What we've settled on, or what I've settled on, is basically taking a copy of these buttons. Alright, down here in Assets, I created a buttons note. And in my buttons note, I paste my buttons, and now I have buttons. And what I've decided to do is just drag those buttons out so that now I've got a pane here where the buttons can reside. Now, it's not perfect. I'll be completely honest. I'm not completely satisfied with where it is yet. But, you know, it's an option. You could have it down here, you could have it down here, all right? It's up to you. You know, you could just create another pane with it. But it's cool having them there, all right, so that you've got quick access to them. And, you know, I'm sure someone will eventually figure out how to make them so that they are horizontal. Just a heads up here that if we do delete these, I wonder if this will work. Yeah, that still works. Or what we could do is actually come along and do this. Oh, undefined. It did not like that. I wonder if that's because I've deleted them. There we go. New NPC doesn't work with inline buttons yet. Alright, so it doesn't like these. So I will need to have the actual buttons just to check that it works from here though. New NPC. Yeah. Her name is Jessica Jones, and that is working fine. So it works from the raw buttons, it doesn't work from the inline buttons, which is really, really sad. So anyway, I'm sure someone will figure it out, and when you do, please do come and let me know, because I am very keen to use that functionality on this home screen. I think it is the perfect spot for it. And if anyone else figures out a way to sort of format the buttons in a way that would make sense, like maybe they can all be formatted in the left-hand pane with all my stuff on the right, like come and let me know too, guys. That'd be fantastic. Anyway, hopefully that's been an interest for you guys. That is how to use buttons with Templater to create new notes in a very automated way. I think that's fantastic functionality. It absolutely makes sense for me to have it on my homepage and have access to that button, you know, very quickly, so that, you know, it's just there, all right? And I'm going to use this moving forward. I think it's really, really cool functionality. I think I would be very specific about which buttons I create. I don't think I would create a button for everything that I'm creating in my vault, but I would think about it from the perspective of, like, I'm playing my game, I need to create something very quickly, and usually what are those things? And for me, it's an NPC. It's not usually a location, because a location has usually already been made in my prep notes. I usually prep my locations pretty well. But it might be a magic item. Sometimes I've got a random item deck that I use, right? I might pull out a random item, and I just need to, like, create that random item they've been given. I'm absolutely terrible with magic items, right? I'll be like, oh, you find a potion, and I usually don't want to tell them what the potion is. So I usually tell them, like, oh, it's a black potion with, like, bubbles, or it's like a flat purple liquid inside, or, you know, it looks like it's, you know, solid and jelly-like. You know, I tell them hints so that they don't know exactly what it is. I don't say, like, you've got a health potion, right? Because I want them to have to go away and identify it, kind of like the old RPG games. And I want to, you know, have the opportunity for, like, some stupid hero to go, you know what, I reach into my backpack and I don't know what this black potion is, but I'm going to glug it and see what happens. And I've had that happen in my games, and, you know, it's always hilarious when it happens, because you're in control of what the occurrences are. The point I'm trying to get to though is now I can create a new magic item with my button really quickly that I can come back to at a later point in time. So something to think about. Anyway, hopefully you have found this content useful. If you have, please do like and subscribe using the buttons below and you know where to find them. Outside of that, I want to say a huge, massive thanks to all my Patreons. I think we are currently at 99 Patreons, so this is a bit exciting for me. I have one Patreon off 100, and I feel like that deserves a little bit of celebration. I've been making these videos for, I don't know, like it feels like 10 years to be honest. I've made a lot of videos. But you know, the patrons it's just taken it so much more. So thank you guys, really appreciate it. If you aren't part of my Patreon, what you do get is access to a private Discord server where we are talking about Obsidian.md and a whole heap of other sort of sub hobbies as well, but primarily Obsidian.md. And you get access to me to answer your questions when you have them, but also a fantastic community who can help you out as well. And you also get access to my template vault. So this entire example tonight, for example, is already available to my Patreons via the template vault, so that they can download the code directly, copy it into their vaults directly if they want, or modify it and use it as a learning experience. So there we go. That's what we've got for tonight, guys. Hope you've enjoyed yourself. Do have a great night, and I will speak to you on the socials. Thank you.